me jump into the live demo, specifically focusing on the things we talked about: the communicator power user tips and tricks, organizing contacts and groups, group options, communications waste, and some director stuff. So I want to talk about Simul-ring and call move. I want to let you know what those do, and then I'm going to show you how to set them up. So communications waste is a term that's broadly used to describe what happens when someone tries to reach you on your desk phone. It goes to voicemail. They try your cell phone, it goes to voicemail. They call your assistant, they say you're in a meeting. Those three contacts, that's what communications waste is. We're trying to enable you and your team to implement tools and technologies that reduce that and allow you to get more one-call reach to someone. So there's several ways to do it, and I'm going to talk about all of them. 3 ways we recommend are 1, Simul-ring, 2, Find Me, Follow Me, and 3, lastly, call forwarding. So talking about Simul-ring first and call move, they're connected technologies. Simultaneous Ring allows a Mitel user to set up to 2 extra phones to ring at the same time as their assigned phone based on availability state and permissions. You can configure Simul-ring yourself right from the user interface. We're going to show you how, or administrators can do it. When this is turned on and someone dials your phone, your desk phone will ring. In addition to that, let's say your mobile phone will ring. I use this heavily when I'm in available mode. I've got my cell phone set to Simul-ring. My desktop is set to available. I get up from my desk. I've got my cell phone in my pocket. I walk up to my finance manager. It never fails. Someone calls my desk phone. What happens? My desk phone rings, and so does my cell phone. I can pick the call up on my cell, take the call from the client, walk back to my desk, and then on the display of my telephone, there's a move button. I can move that call back to my desk phone and use my desk phone, which is better speaker, better quality, louder volume. Let's say I need to reverse it. Now I need to head out to drive to a client meeting. I can also hit that call move button on my phone, my desk phone, and now push the call to my cell, pick it up there, and head to the meeting without dropping the call, without transferring the call, and so on. So that's Simul-ring and call move. One gotcha with implementing Simultaneous Ring that I want you to be aware of. When you're using Simultaneous Ring, remember, it is using an extra phone line to call that cell phone. So there is a class of service setting necessary to allow a user to use it because it is consuming a phone line. So I'm going to go ahead and set it up for you and let you see what it looks like. Let me pull up my Mitel here. Put it on the screen. And I'm going to escape out of this PowerPoint briefly and just pull this up. So now you should see on the screen my Connect client. As you see, it shows I'm in a meeting mode. I'm going to go ahead and configure this. So I click on my name. It pulls up my settings wheel. I click that, and my settings window shows up. In settings, you go to call routing, and now you've got your availability routing. So Simul-ring is a function that is tied to availability state. And what I mean by that is you can say, I do want it to Simul-ring when I'm available. I also want it to Simul-ring when I'm in a custom mode, maybe even in a meeting. But if I'm out of office or do not disturb, I don't want it to Simul-ring. For me, I'll tell you what I like. I like Simul-ring when I'm available, and I like Simul-ring when I'm out of office. Because for me, out of office means I'm working, but I'm traveling. That's how I use it. So those are the 2 availability states I'm going to show you. So let's go to out of office. This is my out of office configuration right now. As you can see, incoming calls are routed to my desk phone, and currently no other phones will simultaneously ring. To change that, I just click change, and it takes me to the Simul-ring page. So a word of caution, if you come here and you click change and it doesn't have this option, it's going to tell you you have mobility configured. So if you have mobility, that's a whole other thing to talk about. Today we're talking about Simul-ring, call move, find me, follow me, and forwarding, not mobility. Mobility is a client application. So I check the box for also ring these numbers. Now I can configure these numbers and put whatever labels I want them right there. So you just click on the cell. It tells me I've got my cell phone here, 555-1212, how many call attempts I wanted to make. I would, at a minimum, set this to 4. I think when you first configure it, Mitel will put it at 3. But I'll tell you that that first ring is basically lost because it's calling your cell phone. So you don't even get it. By setting it to 4 rings, you're basically getting 3 rings on your cell. So I set it to 4 rings all the time. You also have an option here for automatically connect or press 1 to connect. I leave it at press 1 to connect, and the reason is when I get that call, it will let me know that bring, you have a call from, and then it'll announce it's from the external party. I like that because I know it's a mobility or a Simul-ring call, and I can press 1 to pick it up. If you want it to connect automatically and you don't want to press 1, just choose automatically connect. Now it's got that number. You can also configure a second number. This one I've got is a backup cell. That's not a real thing. I don't have a backup cell. I wish I did, but I could choose a backup cell. You could also have it ring an assistant or a coworker if you want, and you type that number in. Once you do that, hit save. You'll see that your Simul-ring is set to now having a cell and a backup cell both ring at the same time when an incoming call is made. Keeping in mind, like we discussed, that call to the cell phone and the call to the backup cell phone are both using a phone line. So be aware of that as you're looking at your trunk usage and so on. So that's simultaneous ring for the available state. Now, if I go to out of office, you'll notice it's set no other phones will ring simultaneously. So I'm going to click change on that, simultaneous ring, and this time I'm going to have it only do my regular cell, not the backup. I hit save, and you'll see right there, this phone will simultaneously ring just my cell phone while I'm in out of office. So that's Simul-ring, and those are the key considerations for Simul-ring. So keep those in mind when you're planning it. Always think about that trunk utilization. I also want to talk about Find Me features. And I'll talk about what Find Me, Follow Me does and how it's different than Simul-ring. So Simul-ring, when I call an extension, at the same time, it will also ring the cell phones that I've pre-designated. With Find Me, it doesn't ring them automatically. Find Me requires the caller to press the number 1. The reason you want to do that is because you might not want everybody using Find Me. I'll give you a scenario. For us, for some of our people, they'll use Find Me to go to their cell phone, and it'll be a hidden option, meaning it doesn't announce it. It just says, hey, this is Don, leave me a message, beep. But I know if I press 1 during that, it will go to his Find Me destination. Other people use it as an announced destination. They'll say, as an example, hi, this is Don Gulling. I'm in the office, but I'm away from my desk. To have the system try my cell phone, press 1. Otherwise, leave me a message. I'll be notified, and I'll call you back as soon as possible. When the caller presses 1, that triggers the Find Me option. Now, a note to administrators. To use the Find Me feature, the user has to be a member of a group class of service that's configured to allow external call forwarding and Find Me destinations enabled. That's right in class of service. I'm going to show you that in a minute. It's super easy to do. You can turn it on system-wide or per user group. The reason you want to have that as a class of service is, again, Find Me, if it's calling a cell phone, can trigger and use another phone line. So some people didn't want to do that. They don't want long-distance calls. They want to, control or limit that. They might not have it turned on. Maybe they have it only on for executives. In our case, we let everybody have that. Lastly, remember, the standard voicemail greeting that's built in the system does not prompt the caller that Find Me is available. So you have to record that in your message and say, to have the system find me, kind of press 1. So let me jump over to Find Me and show you that as well. So just again, we're going to the configuration. You can do it all kinds of ways. You can just click here and click settings, or you can click your name and then click settings. It all goes to the same place. So once you're in call routing, we're going back to the same place. And remember with Find Me, just like with Simul-ring, we're dealing with this based on availability state. So you can say Find Me is on when I'm available in a meeting or out of office, but not on if I'm in Do Not Disturb, Vacation, or Custom. So you have that flexibility. So here's the Simul-ring setting. Here's how many rings before it goes to voicemail. Then the next step is if callers press 1 while listening to my voicemail greeting, no phones are selected to sequentially ring. I don't know why Mitel doesn't just say, this is where you configure Find Me, but that is where you configure Find Me. So I'll click Change. Now, when we're in here, it does mention the words Find Me. So I'm going to talk about those settings. First off, at the top, it can be disabled. Don't try to find me. Don't forward calls. Or enabled. Allow it to be used. Once Find Me is enabled, you also have some other settings. You can say this, first of all, which is ring my Find Me numbers sequentially before playing my voicemail. So earlier, when I said the caller has to press 1, I was referring to the callers in your voicemail, they can opt out to go to Find Me. That's the way I use it. However, if you always want Find Me on and you don't want to use Simul-ring, you can have the Mitel do the Find Me before it goes to voicemail, meaning it tries your phone first, your desk phone, then it tries your Find Me destination, then it goes to voicemail. So that's a nice feature. Another neat one, this is very cool, if you want to do something called mobile call screening, you can turn on this prompt the caller to record their name. And what this does, when someone calls your phone and this option is enabled and it goes to Find Me, the Mitel system will prompt the caller and say, please state your name after the tone. It says it a lot nicer than me though. And it gives them a beep, beep, and then I say, Don Gulling. Then the phone system says, please wait while we try to find your party. Then when it calls me and my phone rings, I answer it. When I answer it, it says, you have a call from Don Gulling. To accept, press 1. Otherwise, hang up. If I press 1, I'm connected to Don. If I don't, it sends it to my voicemail and says, we're sorry, we're unable to locate your party. Then it plays my voicemail greeting. So my recommendation is, play around with it for your own phone. Try it out and see which ones you like best. Turn on the Find Me, try the prompt, demo it yourself, then roll it out. I personally do not use the prompt the caller to record their name option for my phone. And the reason I don't use it is because I just don't want callers feeling like I'm screening their calls and, ignoring them. It's possible that I could have Find Me turned on and I just can't take the call because I'm in no cell phone coverage or I'm in a meeting or I'm at the doctor's office or whatever. And I hadn't turned Find Me off. I just don't want a client thinking, they left their name and I screened them out. So for that reason, I don't use it, but it's still a very valid feature. I will say I prefer to use the play my voicemail first. In there, I say, hey, this is Don Gulling. I'm currently away from my desk. To have the system try to locate me on my cell phone, press 1. If you'd like to speak to someone at the help desk for immediate support, press 0. Otherwise, leave me a message. Now I've given the option to the caller for 3 different ways. 1, try my cell phone with Find Me. 2, they can press 0 and go to my help desk team and get immediate assistance. Or 3, they can stay on the line and leave a voicemail. So when they do the play voicemail first, I can also prompt them to record their name for Find Me. Again, we talked about that. Lastly, here are where the Find Me numbers are used. I can use my cell phone first, 4 rings, just like that. Then I could say I go to a backup cell, and I could go to that one for 4 rings. So you can use up to 2 additional numbers on your Find Me destination. I click Save. Now you'll see for available, here's what I've got. Callers are routed to my desk phone first, but they simultaneously ring my cell phone. That's 4 rings. If that doesn't answer, it then goes to my voicemail. My voicemail, I'll record a greeting that says, hey, this is Don. I'm in the office, but away from my desk. To have the system try my cell phone, press 1. If the caller presses 1, it will sequentially ring first my cell phone for 4 rings, then my backup cell for 4 rings. I know that's a lot. Then it will tell the caller, couldn't find me, and it goes to my voicemail. So that is both Simul-ring first, and then find me, follow me second. The last thing I want to show you is for communications waste. Sometimes you're going to be tied up, in meetings all day or important other events. You can't take a call live at your desk, but you do want callers to get help if they call you, and you've got someone covering for you. For example, our VP, John Childers, he'll cover for me frequently, or I'll cover for him if he's out. In those situations, what I'll do is I'll just set up call forwarding. So what I do, instead of having calls go to my cell phone or in a meeting mode or any of those things, I'll have them go straight to a call forward destination. So remember, you can always do that as well. Let me back up the slides and show you the rest of the content here, do a little more demos. Oh, back up. So let me talk about for a second organizing contacts and using some power tools in contacts, again, to reduce communications waste. Then I'm going to show you some director tools. So let's back up here and pull up the Connect client again. So I'm in Connect client, and I've got a list of contacts. Now, as you know, this pulls up your favorites, and you also have groups. You can organize your favorites and groups any way you like. Favorites are added by typing in the name of an employee, like Cheryl. As long as Cheryl has a star by her name, she's in my favorites group. So I've got all my team in my favorites, but some of my phones I don't have. Like I have a conference phone. Paul's conference actually is in my favorites. I've got a Don's backup phone. Let's see if that's on here. Copy of, I think it's called, yeah. So I excluded that one, but as you see, I've got all mine listed in my favorites. I don't think I've got anybody not in my favorites list. Let me just double check and see. See if I can add one for you. No, I've got everybody in my favorites because everybody's a favorite of mine. So they're all in my favorites, but I don't have everybody in groups. So let me collapse these groups and show you how I use them. One of my favorite groups is this help desk team. In the help desk team, I've got Paul, Nick, Bill, and Jenna. Actually, we added John Duran, who's a new employee of ours. I haven't yet added him into the help desk group. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So let's go back to John. He's not even in there at all, is he? Let's add him in. I'm going to add John Duran to my favorites. So here's John. We can see he's on the phone with a client right now. I'm going to add him to my favorites. So now he's in there. I go back to my favorites. I see John Duran. Now I can go to John. And I can add him to a group if I want. So help desk. I've got the help desk team here. Again, reducing communications waste. Let's say I want to chat with everybody at the same time. In the help desk group, I can go here and I can start a group chat. The way I use this is by having the help desk team here. Sometimes I want to send them a quick message to make them aware of something that's going on. Like, hey, we got a call that CenturyLink is having a massive service outage on the East Coast, and customers are going to be affected. So I could click start a chat, and I'm going to put this is a test. CenturyLink is having an East Coast outage. Be aware that clients will be affected. A CenturyLink tech will keep us updated. Let's put this as a test so they don't freak out. So now everybody in that group is going to get that message popping up right on their screen. Doesn't go to email. It's a private IM. As long as you've got that internal instant messaging appliance, or the VSA as we call it, that IM will go through. It'll show up right in their communicator instance. So again, that's another way of kind of reducing communications waste. We can see right now William is typing a reply. So you can see he's like, hey, thanks. And you can't see it, but it's on my other screen. I have it pop up on my other screen for me. Another great thing with contacts that I like to do, let's go back here to all my favorites. And I look and I see that not a lot of people on the phone. So Jacob Burton is on the phone and John Duran's on the phone. Let's say I want to talk to John, but I know he's tied up right now. I can go over here and click on Alert When Available. Now, once I've checked Alert When Available, his phone is tagged by the system and linked to my Connect client instance. So the second he hangs up, the Mitel system will alert me and give me the option of calling him. So I don't know how long his calls last, but we did tag him as Alert When Available. Let's do one more so we can see if we get somebody else in there. Let's go back to Jacob Burton, and let's also do an Alert When Available on him. So now we've got 2 Alert When Availables triggered, one for Jacob, one for John. If either one of them become available, I'll get alerted and I'll get that message to call them. So that's another great way to reduce communications waste. The next thing I want to show you in terms of communications waste is a voicemail escalation profile. So here's how I use that. A caller dials my phone. Despite my best efforts by using Simul-ring and Find Me, I still can't be reached for whatever reason. Doctor's office, client meeting, you name it. The voicemail is left. The customer leaves me a message. Now, I'm away from the office. I'm not going to be back until later in the day, but I do want to know they called. I do want to respond to them rapidly. So what do? I set up an escalation profile. How do I do that? It's right there in settings. In your settings, under voicemail, there's a button called escalation. If I click on escalation, it's going to give me these options. First option, notify for the first unheard message only. Second option, notify for every new message. I always leave it set up for every new message because I want to be notified so I can return the call. Then I can adjust the profile. I click Add a New Profile, and I give it a name. I'm going to call this one, You Have Mail. Remember that? Anybody had AOL? I can also repeat it. Why would you do that? Well, with an escalation profile, you can have the system call you to let you know you have voicemail. If you don't answer it, once the timeout lapses, it does it again, kind of to remind you, or I call it pester you. I typically don't need that. So I don't have repeat turned on myself. I have seen some customers set that to 1 or 2. Now, next, send me email notification. What this is going to do is via my email system, as long as director is linked through email relay, it will send an email to whatever address you specify to let them know you have a new voicemail. Also, they can attach the WAV file. So if a mobile user wants to, they can play the voicemail right from the WAV file in the email without calling in, saving a step, right? Reducing communications waste. Next, send phone notifications. What this means is it's going to call you and tell you you have voicemail. I'm going to type in my number. It's my actual cell phone number. It's not super secret. Anybody on this meeting can have it. Feel free to call me anytime. So that's my cell. There's a checkbox here that says this is a pager number. I'd call this largely irrelevant. I don't have anyone using pagers anymore. But if you are using pagers, you know sometimes you have to enter an ID number and pager data. Again, I think it's largely irrelevant, but it is there if you need it. So it's going to, on every mail, on every voicemail that's left, it's going to send me an email first with a WAV file attachment to let me know I have a new voicemail and I can listen to it on my mobile phone. and it's going to call my cell phone to tell me I have a new voicemail. The timeout setting, that's how long it waits before it calls me a second time. I don't have repeat turned on. Let's say I repeat it once. My timeout's set to 10 minutes. That means I'll get 2 emails, 2 phone calls. One call when the voicemail is first left, another call 10 minutes later. If 10 minutes is not enough, I don't feel like it is. I'd set it to 30. That's my timeout setting. I'll get a call that I got a voicemail. When I check the voicemail, it kind of turns this alert off. If I don't check it, it calls me again. Now I click on add, and now you see I have a You Have Mail profile set up. That profile is going to send me an email, attach the WAV file, call my cell phone. If I don't answer it, it's going to call my cell phone again 30 minutes later. That's how that works. Last thing on here I want to show you, and this is something that's a little bit trickier, but a neat tool for a power user or an admin or a boss. There is the ability to notify for urgent messages only. Now, most callers, when they call you, don't know to kind of hit pound at the end of the call and then choose voicemail options like flag this message as urgent or flag this message as private. All of us here have probably done that, where you call in, you leave a message, at the end you just hang up. But if you turn on this notify for urgent messages only, and you communicate this to your closest support team members, your staff or your preferred clients or whoever, you tell them, hey, if you leave me a voicemail, please always hit pound at the end and mark it as urgent, and that will trigger the system to start calling my cell phone and emailing me, and blowing up my phone to let me know to call you back. Urgent messages only is a great way to have kind of a private escalation that's not announced, that your best friends, wife, kids, whoever knows to press, and that way they can get your escalation profile. But other people don't know, and therefore those calls are not escalated. So that's your escalation profile. Next one I want to show you is in Director, a couple of things. So I'm going to pivot over to that. Keep the questions coming. A couple that popped in. I feel like I'd answered those. A couple sent them to me as a private chat. That's fine, but you can also use the question tab, or you can use the public chat. But I want to pop over to Director, and I'm going to show you a couple of things. First off, just a reminder, again, we have this webinar series every month. We've published it for the entire year. Here's the webinar series. You can register for one or all of them. So those are going to be happening every 30 days. Keep that in mind. Also, again, that WatchGuard webinar is on the 30th. Several of you on the call have registered for that. We plan on having a webinar for our cybersecurity once a month as well. So you'll get notifications of those. And then kind of lastly, this HPE Nimble and InfoSight class. This is a private class at our facility in Ocala. It's one day on the 27th. For anybody who wants to know about Nimble or InfoSight, it's a hands-on technical course. Registration is limited to the first 15. We're about halfway booked. So contact me or your sales rep if you want to get in that class. This is free for customers. There is no charge, but it is technical training. So this is expected for somebody who kind of knows a little bit about server infrastructure, IP addresses, those kinds of things. So that's coming as well. But popping over to Director, let me log in here. So what I want to show you in Director, a couple of things. One, I want to talk about the user settings for availability state defaults. Now, what is this? Earlier in the demo, we were talking about these different availability states in call routing. So in call routing, I've got available in a meeting, out of office, do not disturb, vacation, and custom. Those have pre-built scenarios from Mitel that are integrated in the system from day one. However, most people want to change those, and a lot of times administrators are saying, again, the users can't figure it out, or they're not sure what to do, or sometimes they're saying, hey, our CEO or HR director or VP of operations, whoever, they want a standard. So as an administrator, you can configure those standards, and they are under availability state defaults. That's where you configure them. I don't know why this is kind of hard to find for a lot of folks. That's why I mention it. I get a lot of questions about this from administrators, always asking me about changing these availability states. So under the defaults, remember, you're going to publish a set of standards for each of the modes available in a meeting, out of office, D&D, vacation, and custom. These are the standards. The user could still deviate unless you set them up in a class of service that does not allow them to change it. That said, you might want to go to the available, and on available, you might want to say how many rings, make it a 4 as the standard. Do you want to enable Find Me or not? Do you want to enable voicemail notification or not? Do you want to allow them to have additional phones or not? Those are all standards you can set. You could also put this on a schedule, very seldom used. I have seen some folks say they want to make all the phones available from 8 to 5, Monday to Friday, and you can do that. But typically it's not used. In a meeting, obviously, you've got the same options. I'm not going to bore you with it, but every level of set of availability state has the ability to customize it. The only difference is do not disturb. When you're on do not disturb, your phone basically just lights up red, and the call forward is set to always call forward and where the destination is. Here, we send the destination to voicemail, and it goes to my personal voicemail. That's the default. Something you could do, if you wanted, you could set do not disturb as a new default destination to ring an operator or an operator group and not go to the user's voicemail. Because they're set to do not disturb, maybe you don't want it going there. So those availability state standards are there for you, and I wanted to let you know, you had access to those. We're a few minutes left. We've got about 10 minutes left. I do want to make sure we have time for Q&A, so please keep those questions coming in. You can also send chats or private chats if you like. Next thing I want to go into, from an administrator side, escalation profiles. So you saw me configure an escalation profile for myself using the Connect client. I'm going to show you how to do it from an administrator level. So I'll go to Don. Let's find me here. Sort by name. Click on Don. What you'll see down at the bottom, and I'm going to go ahead and maximize this for all of us. You'll see I have an escalation profile called You Have Mail. That's the one I created, right? You can see all the settings. Urgent only is what I set. Remember that. Attach WAV file, send to email, call cell phone. That's all the stuff I set. I could also have another profile. Now, what this lets me do as an administrator is pre-configure a profile for a user and let them flip between one and the other. So this is we'll call this second profile. 1 repeat, 10-minute, not urgent only. Enable with WAV file, send to dgoing@verteks.com. Voicemail is a phone call, and call is cell phone. When I hit save, now Don's got 2 profiles. You have mail profile or a second profile. He can choose between them, either one. So that's something you can do for the user. Very easy to do. Last couple of things. I want to show you one of the issues that's come up a couple of times in the past. Again, toolbars. I've had a lot of people ask about using toolbars in the client to make things easier, to save time, and so on. So just so we're clear, over on the right-hand side, this is a toolbar. I covered it in a prior YouTube video and a training, but if you missed it, definitely check it out. It's on our YouTube channel. But this one is a toolbar. As administrators, we can configure a global toolbar, and we can also configure personal toolbars. Users can then have an assortment of buttons from global or personal. The most common way I see this configured is in organizations that want to use a global toolbar is perhaps they're going to have, a help desk group button, an HR button, a button to the boss, who knows what. But we'll configure those global toolbars. I'm going to show you one. So here's the ones we've configured. We have a help desk toolbar. We have a silent toolbar, which we're not using for anything. A training toolbar, which we only have the one button on for now. And we have Verteks tools. So those are all the toolbars we've configured so far. In that prior training, I went through every single one of these things and what they do and how they work. But I do want to show you how to create a new one and how to add some buttons to it. So I'm going to create a new global toolbar. First thing is give it a name. So I'm going to call this one Mitel Text. These will be the buttons for all the guys that are in our Mitel Tech team. So I'm going to set up buttons for each of them. You can filter the buttons by config, other telephony, or Windows. I'm going to use all. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set one up here for my most favorite monitor extension. So let's put in here Steve. Type in extension as Steve Hall. That's his 1455. Next, do a monitor extension for Mike. Type in Mike. Put in his number. Next, do a monitor extension for Brian. Type in Brian's name, pick his extension. I just do two more real quick. I'm going to do Scott. Type in Scott. This obviously is not everybody, but I just put this last one in. We'll move on to something else. Monitor extension, Juan, and type in Juan and select his. So clicking save, I've got a toolbar now that says Mitel Text, and it's got everybody listed that's on the Mitel Tech team. It's not everybody, but that's an assortment. In addition to that, I can also have other buttons on here. For example, one of my favorite ones, and I did it in another toolbar, is, oh, sorry about that. It's under training. In another toolbar, I put in a quick reference guide. So I'm going to go to the Mitel Text, just like I did on the training. I did it invoke URL. I'm going to go to the Mitel Text. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to click on invoke URL. And with an invoke URL, you can literally run anything. I'll put on here connect quick reference guide, QRG, right? That's what we call it. I click on save. Anybody who has this toolbar now can click on a button for that quick reference guide, and it'll pull it right up on their screen. A better one, this is for admins, for admin level folks, is this Mitel Connect System Admin Guide. This is kind of the 800-page massive guide with everything in here. This is where I got those screenshots for things like find me, follow me, and configuring that. It's all in here, every button. This is what we use for all of it. I know it's a massive document, so we're not asking you to look at it, but it is there for you. What we could do is save this on a network share, link it to a button in that toolbar. Now, anytime anybody needs it, they'll literally click the button, and that quick reference guide pulls up. Super easy. So I've created a new toolbar called Mitel Text. I've assigned buttons to it. Now I'll go to a user. Let's click on myself here, Don. I'll go to my programmable buttons, toolbars. It's got my own toolbar, right? That's my own one. Here's all the ones I've got. I can also type in the same thing with the invoke URL if I want. And I type in Mitel quick reference guide, hit save, just to show it what it looks like on mine. Click on that button. Now it lets me customize my toolbar. These are all the things I can add to my toolbar. As you see right here, it's already added that Mitel quick reference guide button. I just click on QRG. Now that button's right there on my toolbar. If I click it, boom, it pulls up my Mitel quick reference guide for me. So if I ever need it, I click it, pulls it up on the other window, unfortunately, and there's my QRG, just like that. So remember, you've got a lot of options on those global toolbars. So in summary, what I wanted to make sure we're all aware of, all the options we've got for reducing communications waste. So keep in mind, you can use organized groups and contacts. You can use group contact options like sending instant messages to groups or even voicemails to groups. Also, you can use Simul-ring, find me, follow me, and call forwarding. And you can use those availability states to customize it to your liking. And as administrator, of course, you have all that flexibility right in Director. You can always go in here and change it for the user or set standards, and that way they're promulgated throughout your organization. So that's the content I got for you today. Don't forget that we do have a webinar coming up in February, and we're looking for your input on what you'd like included. So as Jeff Bowling is following up with you, please feel free to let him know what classes you'd like. Lastly, I will say, of course, anybody on the call, if you're a current client, you are also eligible for one-on-one training. So if you want to go in depth on a specific topic and you want more training on a one-on-one basis, please let me know, or your sales team know, or Jeff or Brittany know. We will schedule it and we will work with you one-on-one via live webinar interactively to show you exactly what you'd like to see. So thank you all for joining us. We appreciate it. And we are looking forward to seeing you on the very next one. All right. Everybody have a great day. And thanks again.